Welcome back to Extraordinary Women on thatchannel.com. I'm your host, Shannon Skinner, and in the second half of the show, we're going to be talking about changing your thoughts to really change your prosperity picture. And I've got guest Dr. Deborah Nixon here with me. And Deborah, you are a trust expert, founder of Trust Learning Solutions, and MyMoneyMindset. But you started, when I was first in contact with you, what really intrigued me about you is that you are a trust expert, first and foremost. What is a trust expert? I have to ask the question.
So, you know, all of the work that I do is really focused around building and maintaining trust in relationships and in business. So I completed my PhD in 2007 at U of T and focused on trust in financial institutions. And really my big focus was around the security sector, so stocks, bonds, investments. And through that process, I interviewed senior people at the investment firms. I interviewed investors. I interviewed all the key regulators just to talk to them about what trust means to you.
What trust means to them.
Yeah, what does it mean to you? What does it look like? How do you know when you trust somebody? How does that feel? How can you tell? If there's a trust breach, what's that all about? And it was very interesting to see the findings and the differences in people who were in the industry versus their clients, and the perspectives were quite different. So out of that, I developed, you know, a whole business around coaching, training, and working with people around building and maintaining trust.
Now, I would imagine that considering we've had quite a financial meltdown, you know, in recent times, has trust changed? How has it impacted trust?
Well, I think trust hasn't changed in the sense of what people's expectations are. I think what's really changed is I think the public got a real awakening about some of the intricacies of the business. I think previous to these meltdowns, a lot of people really put their financial future in the hands of advisors and investment advisors, which is fine and it's great. But I think what they didn't do is they didn't take any personal responsibility about what those advisors are doing, or get involved in the decision making, or even educate themselves about what it is their advisors were investing in. So I think it was a big wake-up call for a lot of people. I think people didn't assume that the crash that happened a couple of years would have even been possible, that you would lose 40 or 50% of the value of your portfolio in under a year. I think people just never thought about it, and I think it really caused people to question and to get more involved.
I would imagine there would be an upswing to that too. I mean, if people are questioning, perhaps they are learning some valuable lessons that they needed to, like, you know, maybe having a more hands-on approach to managing their money, I would assume.
Well, that is, yes, and in fact that is what happened. And what the banks have found is that during that time, investments in personally directed investment went up. So what was happening is some people were moving their money away from advisors and deciding to take control of their own money and their own investments. So they would go onto the online brokerage. But a lot of that came out of a disillusionment sometimes about whether or not you could actually, and whether it was realistic to trust a financial advisor. And people began to really start to look at how people are compensated. So none of this to say that there was anything subversive that was going on, but I think what happened is people just really didn't take the time to find out, and that they put a lot of trust, blind trust, into areas where maybe they needed to be more measured in their approach.
Now, do women have then, if we could speak about relationships with money, do women have a different relationship with money than say men?
Yeah, I think they do. I mean, everybody has an emotional relationship with money, so money is really a very feeling kind of thing. It starts with messages that we got out from childhood. You know, what was money like in our household growing up? What was our parents' attitude towards money? So we carry that forward. What's different with women is part of it is still our socialization, and despite all of our efforts to create independence, and you know, things are better with this younger generation, but research will show that even among young women, that sense of taking charge and control is just not there. Women still tend to look for somebody to take care of them. And so whether it is a significant other, whether it's a parent, whether it's an advisor, we don't tend to really take charge of our lives in that area. It's just an area we don't want to go to. Men and women are much more risk averse. Men have a very much higher risk profile when it comes to money and investment. So there are some gender differences.
Why are women more risk averse?
I think that women are much more afraid of the future. I mean, one of the interesting things I found in my research and through the work I've done since is that if you get women in their very quiet, private moments, they will tell you that their number one fear with money is being a bag lady. And it's a syndrome that's really unique to women. It has nothing to do with how much money you have or how successful you are. A lot of women, you know, still have that feeling that when they get older, they'll be pushing a shopping cart and eating cat food. I mean, it's just this thing that we have, and it's very difficult to get around. So, you know, it really is just something that's really been embedded for many years, and you really need to raise your awareness and be really very present with that reality and really test whether it's realistic. But it drives our decision making.
Now, this, of course, has led you to creating MyMoneyMindset. Can you tell me, what is that all about?
Right, so MyMoneyMindset is a program that comprises an assessment tool and coaching and training. And what it really is it measures people's emotional and psychological relationship with money. It's not just oriented to women. It was the genesis, though, of my work. I mean, my goal was to help women take charge of their lives. So my vision in creating MyMoneyMindset was to help women. But the banks are very interested in this right now because what they want to do is really help all of their clients. But there's a particular focus on women around this. And the goal is to get women to be self-aware of where their attitudes towards money comes from, and to really test whether those attitudes are legitimate and sustainable over time. So the MyMoneyMindset really is just a series of 50 questions, really quick, takes 10 minutes, and it basically gives you an overall profile of what your attitude towards money is along 6 kind of measures.
So this is meant really for a financial institution then to educate or work with advisors so that they have a sense of their clients. Is that really it?
Well, it starts with the client. So everything always starts with the client. And my goal is to help clients. So I've got 2 goals. My main goal is to help clients, and there are 2 ways to do it. One is to help them directly, and the other way is to work with the advisors to teach them how to talk to clients about the other side of money, which isn't just the rational investment side, but the psychological and emotional stuff that people bring into the relationship, because that drives their decision making, and the advisor needs to understand that, and often it's an area they don't want to go to. So the assessment has 2 parts. One is the advisor takes it, but the other part of it is that the consumer takes it, and the advisor then can see how well matched they are with their clients.
Oh, that sounds really fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, we're up for a break now, and this is when I have my Good to Know Minute, and
Great.
I know that you've got a great tip on
Yes.
that you can offer our viewers on creating a successful life.
Well, my tip is about building resilience, and it's about really overcoming obstacles and not letting them get in your way and finding solutions to anything.
Well, thank you. We'll take a break and we'll be back. Welcome back to Extraordinary Women on ThatChannel.com. I'm Shannon Skinner, and I am speaking with Dr. Deborah Nixon, who is trust expert, the founder of Trust Learning Solutions and MyMoneyMindset. And we're talking about really how women can empower themselves financially. And during the break, we were talking about some ways that women can adapt into their, or some ways that women can really change their thinking about money so that they can ultimately change their prosperity picture if they wish to have more prosperity. So one of the things we talked about was to feel free about asking for a review with your financial advisor, or first and foremost, get a financial advisor if you don't have one. But when you have one, you can ask for a review, you can ask for a change, and this is something I wasn't aware of in my life, and I know that you've had your own personal experiences with financial advisors.
Well, part of what really drove me to develop this program was through a combination of my own experience and my research. And in fact, while I was doing my research, I was in the midst of dealing with a financial advisor who I wasn't happy with. And you know, it never occurred to me that I could leave him. It's like you don't want to leave your hairdresser, you know. So
feel like you're cheating on them.
Feel like you're cheating, like that you would actually, you know, question them. And I think for a lot of women, I think we get really intimidated. These guys are their own experts, and you know, the world of financial analysis can be complicated and complex, and I think a lot of us just think, oh my goodness, like, what do I know? I mean, that's what I thought. What do I know? How can I question him? And in fact, you know, I found out that I actually knew more than I thought. And so I think that's what's really important, is to listen to your gut. I mean, Lisa talked about the same thing in her area, and I'm going to reiterate that. I think women have a very good intuition. I think we ignore it. In my gut, I had a feeling things weren't right with my advisor. I had a feeling he wasn't making the right decisions, but I felt too intimidated to really challenge him. And when I did challenge him, what he did was give me more numbers and more facts, which of course I couldn't argue. So what I recommend is, you're not going to be able to challenge them on the numbers unless you do a lot of research, and that's a lot of work. But you know what you can challenge them on is the relationship, and whether or not he's meeting your needs as an individual in terms of the areas of your life that matter to you. So I think that what you need to do when you get a new financial advisor is ask them, what is your process to review our relationship? I know that you're going to call me and review my portfolio and the numbers, but what do you do about checking after I sign on with you about whether you're the right person for me? I think you should raise that right up front, and if they don't, I think at the end of your first quarter with them, you should place a phone call and say, I'd like to sit down and talk with you about whether in fact I feel that you really are getting what my life's about.
And of course, in referring to Lisa, who's our previous guest, Lisa Petty, she's got an interesting story because she worked in the industry as a stockbroker in banking, and she's got quite an interesting personal story. Now, the other thing that we talked about, another way that women can certainly change their thinking about money and their relationship with money was, when you do get an advisor, to make sure that they are not a friend or a close associate of any sort, because of the potential for entanglement. I mean, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think it's really natural for us. I mean, we do like to ask our friends for referrals, and I think that that's a great idea. The problem when you take an advisor who's a friend or who's close to you or is in your circle is, if things don't work out, it's very complicated to disentangle yourself from that person because of all those social connections. So my advisor was an associate of somebody I knew very well. When things weren't working out, I had to go through the whole process of thinking, well, if it doesn't work out with him, how does it affect the other relationship? Will that person be upset with me? Those are not issues that you should be dealing with when you're talking about your own money. You need to look after yourself, your investments, your best interests. And this is not the time for you to be worrying about protecting relationships of other people. You really have to protect yourself. And if you're, as women, you know, we're nurturers. We want to look after our relationships. This isn't an appropriate time for you to be focusing on the relationship that you have with the advisor and how they're going to feel. They need to worry about how you are.
And of course, this is a topic I know a lot about, actually. And having worked with an advisor who was, I had a connection with. They weren't sort of out of the blue, an unknown advisor. And I know now, in looking back, what is at the back of your mind is, well, this person cares about me. This person. Therefore, I can trust this person because they care about me, then therefore they're going to take care of my money. But however, that may not actually be the case. I mean, they, yes, may care about you, but they have their own interests to look after as well. So it's an illusion, I think, that we create, that this person is we put all our trust in one person because of the personal connection we have. That's not necessarily the right connection or the right reason to go with a financial advisor.
I totally agree with you that I assumed that my advisor cared about me. I described my personal situation to him. I said, I've just been recently widowed. I have a very young child. This is my life savings. Oh, yes, I really understand that. I was naive to think that I would tap into that personal side of him, but really at the end of the day, this was just a business to him. And I was just another client. And we don't sometimes want to accept that fact. But it's a hard lesson. It's an expensive lesson to learn. And so I think the best thing women can do, or anybody can do, is really to keep that in mind. And there's no reason for you to give business to a friend. There are a lot of advisors out there. I really recommend people keep those relationships really separate.
Yeah, and I think that's really definitely wise. Wise advice, because the other thing is too that if you were, and also whatever your institution that you are with, you could actually leave, and I think a lot of women that certainly that I know of think that they're stuck. Well, my portfolio is with this institution. I'm not happy with it. I'm not happy with my advisor, so I'm stuck. But that's not always necessarily the case. That we can leave wherever we're at. And
I think, as your case and in mine, I didn't even know how to leave. I didn't know I could. I assume, thinking back, that sounds kind of silly, but honestly, I didn't think I could. Didn't know how to do it. Didn't know who to call. How do you start this process? Again, I think when you first sign up with your advisor, ask that question before you get into this relationship, before you develop a connection with the person. Go through the process and say, so if this doesn't work out, what is the process?
Yeah, and I think that trust and women being nurturers really plays a very big role in that. We don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, and maybe that might be a difference between some women investors and some male investors, where perhaps with women it's not so black and white, where it's just about my money, grow my money. If you're not growing my money, I'm going to leave. It's we're now, it's a bit more entangled, where we care about our investor. We don't want to